Well, hello everyone, welcome back to Suzerain and the clusterfuck that has become our administration. Dirdian blessings for Swordless Dissension ritual. Good, how nice of them. Now, the thing that we didn't do last episode the cabinet meeting after the fucking dumpster fire that was that vote. Fuck. He stood upright, holding a larger folder of files under his arm. He bowed in acknowledgement. He looked exhausted. The cabinet has gathered in the White Room, sir. The Vice President will be opening the session soon. We can go in whenever you're ready. Anything you want to say before that? So let's ask him how he's holding up. Thank you, Lucian. You look tired. How are you holding up? It's nothing, sir. I'm ready and able as always. Are you sure you can be honest with me? I'm always honest with you, sir. Sure you are. You fucking little weasel. I remember what you did to me last playthrough. I'll admit this last year was tough. Especially all that lobbying work, but that's nothing to break me down, sir. Trust me, I'm fine. He fixed this time. Anything you want to say before we go in? No, sir, just keep your cool with the cabinet. I believe concerns will be raised in the meeting. What concerns? Our failure of the reform has had a huge impact on public opinion and also on some of the ministers, from the looks of it. The party is quite discontent about the whole situation. They believe your presidency has destroyed the USP's prestige. Alright, let's go to the meeting and hear those concerns out. Of course, sir. Lucian held the door for me, and we both left the office for the White Room. When we entered the room, Petter was speaking to the cabinet members who were already sitting around the table. As soon as they noticed me, they all stood up. Good day, everybody. Please have a seat. Petter turned towards me. Everybody except him took their seats. He stood right next to my chair in the middle. And here's our president. He held out my chair for me to sit down and smiled. Please. I sat down. Sure, let's let Petter talk. What can get any worse than what it is? Petter walked to his seat and spoke, still standing. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here to discuss our current status and plan to the remaining of our term. I know that some of you have had your concerns about our style of governance so far. There will be time to speak up about this in the meeting today. But I must also thank you all for your hard work so far. We are very lucky to have a team like this. All of you have been invaluable to this administration. Leleus grimaced at his remarks. Fucking Leleus. Having said that, now we have reached the critical point of our term. We are nearing the end. We have worked long and hard, but we couldn't reform the Swordish constitution. Our organization was flawed, our party was not united, the very parliament we control has denied us the reforms. We lost most of our support after editing the proposal to include changes to Articles 6 and 7. The higher-ups of the USP has abandoned their support for our administration. The Lothburg group led massive lobbying effort against us in the assembly, which caused us to lose many votes. He paused and looked around the room. But past is past. We must now look toward our future. We're investigating and analyzing our faults. We will be taking measures accordingly. He glanced at both Lucian and me. Our party still remains divided. In order to look at the future, we may need to make some changes. On the other hand, the opposition is exploiting our failure to reform. The latest polls show a steep increase in the opposition's support. Everything is going great, isn't it? So let's start the meeting with a brief look at some reports. He fumbled with the stack of papers in front of him. With the latest developments, we have seen an enormous decrease in our popularity. The public opinion about our party is at an all-time low. He took out a piece of paper from the stack and inspected it. The major concern of the people is the state of our economy. We are slowly slipping into a depression. Oh, it's going up. This will have dire consequences for our administration. We mustn't lose hope and give it our best. Sortland needs us more than ever. Better turn to me. I'll give the word to the president now. Sat down. Thank you, better. I'm not gonna fucking clap. What the fuck? Everyone's eyes were focused on me. First I want to talk about our new focus and some of my plans going forward. Yeah, economy will be our number one priority until the end of term. We will aim to boost it further. Simon nodded in agreement. We should focus on eliminating poverty and homelessness. Almost everybody seems to be in agreement with me. If there are no more comments, let's move on with the meeting. Next, I want to hear brief reports from each ministry. Barry suggested Simon, and he immediately stood up. Mr. President, dear colleagues, Mr. Vice President was pretty on point with the summary of the current economic status. He also used the word depression. He couldn't have been more correct. Our GDP has shrank by 15% last year. Shit. This downward trend has broken our economy over the last years. If we cannot contain this in time, we will end our term, in the truest sense of the word, in a depression. Fuck. However, this has not yet reflected well on our debt situation. Our total national debt has increased about 85 billion Swedish rand. I think it's rand, I don't remember. This year, if we maintain such a deficit over the next years, we'll face a massive debt crisis which could crash the economy. The Assembly is working on introducing new tax bills which will generate more revenue for the government. These efforts will depend on the government's deficit situation. On the other hand, employment has seen no positive changes. There have been increases in joblessness. It is now at 22%. We need immediate measures to tackle this. Hundreds of thousands lost their jobs. He paused for a moment. Stay silent. Wait for him to speak. Well, one major concern is our nationalization decision. Our expenses have increased, and it did not send a very positive signal to the global and local market. I believe this will have negative effects on our growth. And unfortunately, the benefits from our first infrastructure project don't seem to offset that loss. But apart from all that, I'll finish with an update on our latest project. The manager reported that everything is going well and very fast with the Benfi airport. I'll keep it brief for the sake of the whole meeting and end my report on that note. Good, let's move on to the next report. Gil stood up, and as soon as Simon stepped down, I'll also keep it very brief, Mr. President. Our investment in Bergia have greatly increased our agricultural capacity. The investments also led to a decrease in homelessness and unemployment in rural Bergia. That will be all. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Menger. Next up was Pascal. Mr. President, there are currently no major problems within the Ministry of Health. We are currently investigating some reports of small polio outbreak along a village called Heimir. I believe we can get into more details in our policy meeting soon. These reports keep getting shorter. Josef stepped up. The Ministry of Defense has a very important report regarding our situation with Rumbergs. The investigation shows that Rumberg was in fact weaponizing rebels against our state. We have learned that they have been aiding the blooded rebels in Velen too. Our military must stand ready for any possible attack coming from Rumberg. We have gathered intelligence regarding their military research and production. They are building a massive army. We urgently need to increase our own military production. We cannot let them threaten us like this. We should bring our military forces closer with Agnolia. Of course, sir. We already started cooperating, but I must highlight that Agnolia cannot stand against Rumberg. We can only trust ourselves. Make the necessary arrangements. We'll have to use whatever we have to its limits. Of course, sir. David stood up. Mr. President, Perla has agreed to begin deal negotiations. We will now be moving on with that very soon. Our relations with Agnolia have greatly improved. Our ministries have scheduled many joint projects together. The region is very unstable with the incident at Rumburg, Velen, and Haliland. We must be very cautious. We can talk more in detail at our fourth policy meeting. Thank you, Mr. Rishi. Kara was next. Our ministry is working day and night to improve our education system and increase its accessibility. We have since built around 100 new schools and improved accessibility. We have accomplished a lot with our new curriculum. Our reforms will be gradually improving our output as a society. Leia suddenly stood up. It's not your turn. Mr. President, our raids against PFF targets are continuing with no slowing down. I'm quite shocked that Mitchell Ajal's intelligence have been very reliable so far. She pointed at a stack of papers in front of her. We arrested 3 high-ranking leaders of the BFF this week, but unfortunately, Alan Arge managed to slip away from our grasp. Our forces are looking for him around the Sordish-Vezek border at this moment. We have notified the Vezek authorities to be on the lookout. We are still waiting for their response. Our forces are now getting ready for a much larger operation to finally finish them off. I just need you to sign the order. Sure, I'll sign the order. I trust you'll eliminate him once and for all. Of course. I mean, we need to take whatever wins we can at this point. We need to implement some new measures soon. We will be providing you with some more detailed report at a later date. Unfortunately, Governor Braun is continuing his discriminatory policies against the Bloods in the Special Zone. I'm afraid if this continues, we will have a major problem in our hands. The reports of the EFF organizing its forces is very concerning. Also, Mr. Greaser has had a report for you regarding an investigation you wanted him to look at. There is one more important thing to ask of you. I would like to transfer the Gendarmerie under the Ministry of Interior to improve the internal security efforts. I don't see Joseph accepting this. Well, he might just have to agree if the President of Sorland tells him to. The Ministry of Defense shouldn't be meddling with internal security affairs through the Gendarmerie. We have several incidents where they have to violate too quickly, and it stems from military officers giving reckless orders at times. Well, yeah, if the security situation gets more problematic, it might be necessary. It will eventually cause a problem between our forces. There are already miscommunications going on. Will you transfer the Gendarmerie to the interior in the future? Sure, I don't like the military. Gendarmeries... Yeah, under peacetime they should be under the control, under civilian control. If they are in wartime, yeah, sure, transfer them to they go back to the military, but in peacetime they are civilian forces. I was supporting the Gendarmerie Authority transfer, now it's your turn. Excellent. Lilia smiled faintly. Nia stood up. The Supreme Court has delayed the Ishval Erson case again indefinitely. Mr. Hawker and his cronies are adamant about protecting Governor Braun and the Special Zone. In this process, Mr. Erson gained a lot of popularity and is now leading a peaceful protest movement against Governor Braun. Luckily, I've been working on the semi-autonomous zone project for Bergia, and I have an update on that. Apart from a few small details, the project is ready to be implemented. We'll soon be able to get rid of the current governor. I will send the final documents to you to sign soon, Mr. President. Great work as always, thank you. Of course. Nia took her seat. I believe that is everything. One by one, my ministers packed up and left the White Room. This was significantly less shit than I was expecting it to be. I followed suit and headed to my office. Carl Greaser was waiting for me by the door. Mr. President, can I have a moment of your time? I have something to discuss. Of course, let's go inside the office. He entered my office. I sat behind my desk. Please have a seat, Carl. Thank you, sir, but I'm fine. I will not take long. The Anti-Corruption Police has compiled a report regarding the active investigation. We have been watching the oligarchs closely, just as you asked, and found a very complex web of connections. There are missing links in our investigation, but the oligarchs seem to be involved in a huge case of corruption and lobbying. Even though so many links lead to Walter Tusk, we couldn't find any direct incriminating evidence yet. Currently, we're following a trail that leads to Estord, which will hopefully and finally get us Tusk. We will have another suspicion, we also have another suspicion. Our findings led us to believe there might be some connection between the increasing illegal arms trafficking in East Maricopa and the oligarchs. If we decide to proceed with our investigation, we can potentially uncover a lot more. Yeah, continue your efforts. Keep looking. Fast. Yes, sir. I'll give you an update soon. I will also send you the detailed report of our previous findings. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Carl. He bowed his head and left the office. The last 2.5 years had gone by so fast. Okay, things are going better than expected. Perhaps not as fast as we need them to, but better than expected nonetheless. Gang violence diminished, that's good. Anti-government protests, that is not good. Ribery requests aid. Whistleblower agent report. To the rest of the nation, sure. Lucian and I walked into my office in the Maroon Palace to make the address to national speech. It was unusually crowded today. Cameras, lights, and microphones were set in place, and the crew was standing by, ready to start filming. Are you ready, sir? Yes, let's do it. Good, I think the crew is ready. As soon as you take your seat, we can go live. I took my seat and rearranged my notes on the desk as a crew member powered my face with a cotton puff. After everybody was ready, the director gave the sign to start filming. I looked directly into the camera. Brothers and sisters, about the past months, about the historic effort. Yeah, sure. I'd like to speak about the events of past months, about the great historic effort to give the words freedom, fairness, and hope new meaning and power. I took office with a plan to dismantle Swordland's ancient government structure and replace it with one that met the needs of the country as we are today. Alas, my vision was too grand for the narrow scope of our current assembly. The assembly could not conceive of a Swordland in which minority voices were represented and amplified. They stubbornly clung to Swordland's past, knowing it could cost us the country's future. They may have defeated me, but no. Sure. They may have defeated me, but they will never defeat the Sword's spirit. I have not given up my commitment to equality and justice. The future is in our hands. With or without the Assembly's support, there is no end to what we can achieve. Took a deep breath, Lucian shooed a fly away from my forehead. We will start by focusing on the economy. I'd like to thank my wife and children for standing by me, sure. Morgana Wascori, Vector Sista. The director gave the cut signal and the cameraman stopped filming. My speech was finished. Oh, let's hope it does something. Sure, let's see how fucked our economy is on the next act. Revelations. Okay. Still projecting growth. Queen demands reparations for a 15-day war. Get fucked. Radical journalist killed en route to interview. Huh. Interesting. Gendarmerie police issue. Okay, it was cloudy, rainy day in Holsort. The gloomy weather echoed my own feelings. My constitutional changes had been defeated. I was back to square one. Couldn't spend the day moping, however. Frank was finally about to leave home. My son piled the last of his bags next to the door. Serge and the assistant driver were waiting outside next to the car. Did you pack everything? Don't forget to give me a call immediately after you arrive. I will. I think I'm packed. Monica helped him put his backpack on while Serge started carrying the luggage to the car. I made you a snack lunch. I'll get it from the kitchen. She dashed down the hall. Frank and I turned to face each other on the doorway. So I guess this is it. I know starting abroad was your first choice, but I hope you can live with it. I will, don't worry. Frank shifted his weight nervously. I haven't forgotten what you told me about your university years. I hope going to a new country gives me a chance to prove myself the same way you did. Yeah, you don't model your life on mine. You're your own man now, Frank. No. You don't have to prove yourself to anyone, especially not me. Frank smiled. All right, Dad. That moment, Diana rushed to the door. Frank, I'm gonna miss you. I'll miss you too. Don't forget, I've got Mom and Dad to give Mom and Dad an extra hard time for both of us now. Dina nodded. Okay. Frank picked up his sister and gave her a big hug. Monica appeared in the doorway holding a paper bag. I cut the crusts off your sandwich just the way you used to like. I'm not a kid anymore, Mom. Can't a mother pretend, Frank? She embraced him in tears in her eyes. Frank looked at it as if he was about to cry as well. I caught her glaring at me over his shoulder. I hoped some way she would understand why I decided to send him away. What the fuck was I supposed to do? Serge approached. Sir, Frank needs to catch the next ship to United Contana, which leaves from Conrad Port in 4 hours. We'll have to leave now to make it. Thank you, Serge. Frank turns around and took one last look at me. See you soon. Frank nodded before heading to the car. It's difficult to see them go and leave, isn't it? It's time for him to find himself in the world. He will. We all did, after all. Being exposed to a different culture, different beliefs, it changes a man. I think it would be a liberating experience for him. It's never easy for boys to live in the shadow of their fathers. And it must be even harder when one's father is Anton Rain. A great man like you casts a very long shadow. Not everyone thinks that. Excuse my language, Mr. President, but to hell with them. You are my president now and forever. Thank you, Serge. I'm glad I can always count on you. He looked at his watch. Time to go. Frank waved his hand as he entered the car. The engine started and they were on their way. Monica stood next to me and they drove away. Her eyes were teary. There he goes. It already feels different. She put her head on my shoulder. Yeah, I know. Will at the feet of your reforms, I hope we will be alright. We watched for a few more minutes, even after the car was no longer in sight. Everything is going to be fine. Hey, we made money somehow. Valsland harasses Swordfish ships. That is not great, especially since we didn't focus on Navy. Gazom financial report. Okay. The treasury will receive transaction if there are positive returns. Sure. It's better than nothing. Residential salary increased. Well, thank you, I guess. Lucian and I sat in my office waiting for Peter. I was at my desk and he was in the sofa, legs crossed. Sir, I have some news for you. Mr. Hall and I have been working on several possible plans to boost the economy, as it is our focus. He is currently compiling a very detailed report with suggested projects. I'll make sure you have a chance to see it soon. He looked at his watch again. Looks like Mr. Vice President is late yet another time. He lowered his voice. I'm slightly concerned about Peter. He seems to have his mind occupied. He's been late almost every meeting we've had recently. I noticed it. I need to talk to him in private sometime. Suddenly there was a knock at the door. It was Peter. He walked inside with files in both hands. Gentlemen, why are you so late? We were stuck in traffic around Seoul Square. There was a whole gaggle of ladies trying to organize an illegal march. We have to wait for the police to show up. He placed the files on my table, took out several documents, and organized them in front of me. There is everything just as you asked, our plans for our next reforms. You can use our presidential decrees to ignite reforms now. We have enough political capital. I also brought a list of suggested reforms from our party. What are your thoughts, Anton? I have a few ideas myself. Select up to 3 decrees to enact. Does this mean I can't do it? Does this mean ban? Okay. Not sufficient decree powers. Supreme Council of Stardust Radio. Trade and commerce ordinance, few regulatory measures. Sure. We can't do the Bergen Autonomous Zone. Political persecutions. Sure, let's free political prisoners. And gender equality in education, I think. Would have liked to go for free prescription medicine, but VAT would have been necessary, but yeah, I guess if we can only pick 3, the 3 are probably the best ones. Following a brief discussion, I took notes about my decisions. Most of the political criminals from the Seoul area are old communist and bloodish nationalists. The amnesty will surely be controversial, but it should also reflect good of the bloodish and the left. Yes, but it will anger a lot of the nationalists and Seoulists. If we cannot make the socialists or the bloodish vote for us instead of their primary parties of choice, this amnesty might be damaging for us. Ah, fuck. Looks like either Miss Walda or the First Lady had a huge influence on your other decision. It's about time we went after equal rights for the ladies, if only because all those women's marches are starting to get annoying. Fuck's sake, better. This will, however, anger a lot of conservatives. Let us not forget the fact that the biggest bulk of our voters aren't socially liberal. This is a risky move right before the elections. Half the country is women, Lucian. Yes, but how many of them are actively involved with these demands for change? It is a mistake to make generalizations because of a vocal minority, but let's move on. Not everything is about vote, Lucian. I understand, sir. Perry placed his finger on my notes about the Fair Trade Commission. That's a nice one. The commission will be essential in dealing with the monopolies. It was time we established a body that regulates economic competition. Well, we both respect your decisions, Anton. There is one more thing. He placed a stack of paper in front of me. Miss Morna has sent you the plans for the semi-autonomous zone of Bergia. We can still try running it through the assembly if you decide to sign it. Sure, I'm gonna sign it, even though it won't pass. Alright, it's the Assembly's decision now. But now that everything's settled, I should get to work. We'll catch up soon. Lucian looked at his watch. We actually have 6 more minutes. But very well, let's call it there. Thank you both. Well, at least we can do some good. State-of-the-art aircraft carrier, enter aircraft inventory. State-of-the-art aircraft, enter aircraft inventory. Fantastic. Langberg commerce all-time high. That's good. And talk trades with Lesbia will have to be left for next episode. Thank you all very much for watching. As always, I have been Pope. Please do remember to like, comment, and subscribe. I will see you all next time.